that's quite an introduction. If I can deliver on all of that, then we can just all go home. In fact, I can just barely scratch the surface. This conference is going to be about human tech. We're going to talk about that over the next couple of days. And I've been asked to talk about humans in the digital era. Are we getting closer? Which is a question that even a couple of years ago, I would have said no as an answer to. Technology is daunting and difficult for most of us. And particularly if you are not part of the IT sector, if you're not Silicon Valley, it's hard to see what the advantages are going to be for you. But there are some new developments and rapid changes happening that are going to benefit us in fundamental ways, and I'd like to talk about those today. I call these technologies of trust, and I'm going to talk about 4 of them right now in the context of a little story that I'd like to tell. Because yes, I'm a futurist, but primarily I'm a storyteller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a very short sort of day in the life scenario and walk you through what some of these technologies of trust are and how they may change things for us. The technologies are trusted transactions. Bitcoin is an example of that. Smart contracts. Ethereum is a new project that's operating with those. Supply chain transparency, or provenance, which is going to be very important for the nonprofit sector. And data privacy, which is a dark horse, as we say. It's, we don't know how that's going to affect us yet, but we think that it's going to be, have a huge impact on us. I'm going to talk about a day in the life of a guy who works in nonprofit sector. Let's call him Stan, after my favorite Polish science fiction writer. And we'll pick him up. We'll pick up Stan's story in 2025. You might ask, why 2025? It sounds like a good round number. It's 9 years in the future. And I chose that number because it's almost exactly 9 years to the month since the introduction of another technology that's changed our lives. Who here has a smartphone, a mobile? Oh, a few people. This was something that we didn't even conceive of 10 years ago. There were a few things like it, but the iPhone was introduced almost exactly 9 years ago. And in those 9 years, that technology has become both indispensable to us and seamless, such that we accept it into our lives without question. We're still getting used to it. So I thought we would fast forward a bit to 2025, when a technology introduced, or just coming into vogue around 2016, is starting to mature as well, and has become as seamless in the lives of the people living then as the smartphone is for us now. Before we go there, we'll talk about where Stan came from, what Stan's life was in 2016. He worked in nonprofit sector, and he worked in an international setting where his company had branches all around the world. And he had a lot of problems with dealing with different governmental structures, different tax structures, with moving funds and moving money, and with keeping track of assets all around the world in 2016. In 2025, things are very different for Stan. So it's May 2025. Stan wakes up in the morning and he's going to go to work. He usually takes the light rail down to the center of town. So he doesn't drive, typically, but he does own a car. On this particular morning, Stan is making breakfast, and he looks out the window and sees that his car is missing. This does not bother Stan. His car is often missing. Often he does not know where his car is, because he owns a smart car, an electric smart, and he leases it out using smart contracts to various organizations, individuals. Sometimes it might be an Uber car. Sometimes it might work for somebody else. Sometimes it might deliver packages for another nonprofit. He doesn't always keep track of these things. This particular morning, his car's missing. So he's going to have to find some other arrangement for getting to work. And this, in fact, is easy for Stan. All he has to do is walk out to the street, hail another car, which might be an Uber. It might be just one of the neighbor's cars, which is driving by, and he takes that into work. When he leaves the house, he switches it into a mode where the house becomes a commercial entity itself, selling electric power back to the grid, or perhaps donating the power or the proceeds from selling the power to charities, other NGOs, and around him as he drives to work, the entire city is engaged in similar activities. The interconnected Internet of Things, which is now citywide, countrywide, and worldwide, is constantly looking for unallocated, underused resources and finding ways to move those resources to where they can be used. Not always commercially. Sometimes, as in the case of the electric power from his house, spare power might be sold. Sometimes things are donated. Sometimes collaborative arrangements are created out of the blue using smart contracts among non-human systems that the people don't even find out about. This goes on all the time, and it goes on seamlessly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So Stan gets to work, and he's got kind of a new job. What he used to do is, he used to be in supply chain transparency. He used to use a technology known as blockchain to track the provenance or the chain of ownership of products, mostly coffee and chocolate. I assume that most of you are aware that most chocolate is produced with child labor, as it stands. And when you go to buy a chocolate bar, it's very hard to know where that chocolate came from and what was involved in the production of it. Well, Stan's job used to be to create and run the systems that seamlessly, transparently track every stage in the production, manufacturing, warehousing, shipping of chocolate and other commodities around the world, such that the consumer in the store can simply wave their smartphone at a product and find out the whole chain of attestation going back to the original farm where that project was produced. But Stan doesn't do that anymore, because that whole system of provenance in 2025 has become so automated and so transparent, so automatic, that they don't need humans to do most of it anymore. So Stan has moved on. He's moved on to live action role-playing games. You might wonder what the connection between running around in a park with a battle axe and a shield and non-governmental organizations and the nonprofit sector is. Well, when I mentioned the smart city, which allocates resources in a seamless manner, those resources you might have thought were just electricity and power and smart drones delivering devices and things. But in fact, one of the biggest resources that needs to be allocated is underused human labor. And Stan and his group have had the genius idea of creating games in which players who are idle, we might call them unemployed in 2016, but this is not a term that they tend to use in 2025, can engage in a game where they're playing knights and ladies and or scheming diplomats They move around the city, exchanging packages, having secret meetings, doing thrilling things. But in fact, what they are actually doing is finding and moving underused resources through the city. When some player believes that he is a spy transporting a secret dossier to a location, what he's actually doing is he's carrying a free meal to a senior who can't get out of their apartment. When they believe that they are looking for hidden gold in the countryside, what they're actually doing is helping to prune the plants in the public park. So Stan has moved into a different area of resource usage that uses gamification, but also uses the whole same blockchain technology and smart contracts in the background to facilitate all of this. Now, Stan has an ordinary day today where he sets up scenarios for players who are killing each other, taking over their virtual countries, and doing other such things while actually engaging in producing public good in reality. And he's preparing to go home at the end of the day when he gets an email from a company he's never heard of. And the email offer is, we're doing a study to improve health outcomes and create new treatments. We're involving millions of people, and all you have to do is send us all of your health information and financial information, and we'll take care of it all. He's never heard of these people. So what does Stan do? What would you do? He packages up all his health information and financial information and sends it to them without a second thought. And then walks outside where now, finally, his car has remembered him and come around to pick him up and take him home. So that's our story of Stan. But how did Stan get to this strange, possibly utopian world? It started back in 2016 when he attended a conference in Warsaw. Stan might in fact be sitting in the audience now. But at that conference he found out about an essential technology known as Bitcoin, which was beginning to be used by groups like the United Way as a way of facilitating international money transfers and various other financial goods for nonprofits and for charities. But more importantly, he found out about a technology that lies behind Bitcoin called the blockchain technology, which is much more important than Bitcoin itself. And he found out about several projects that existed in 2016, which involved these technologies and went in several different critical directions. One of them was Bitcoin, and I believe that Poland has a digital currency now. Is it the bilon, or how's it pronounced? The bilon, yeah, which is similar to Bitcoin, but run by some of the largest banks in the country. There's another major project called Ethereum, which is about smart contracts. A smart contract being a transaction between two or more people that does not require a trusted third party to go through. Ethereum and smart contracts are huge. They basically take away the necessity for involving a bank, a legal office, a government, name any other trusted intermediary, trusted third party that is involved in making sure that an agreement between two parties who do not necessarily know or trust each other goes through. Ethereum and smart contracts make those third parties unnecessary. For people working in charities, nonprofits, and particularly for people working in small organizations, this means that you do not need to involve these giant organizations, multinationals, law offices, and governments to conduct certain kinds of business anymore. This, for Stan, was an amazing discovery. Then there's provenance.org, which is now, in 2016, engaging in the kind of chocolate or coffee supply chain activity that I talked about. And finally, with the healthcare, MIT's Enigma project, which is introducing a new form of privacy protection into the internet. So Bitcoin and friction-free transactions are what enable Stan's car to engage in commercial activities on its own, although there's other kinds of artificial intelligence involved in that as well, of course. Ethereum and smart contracts run the whole city. The infrastructure I talked about earlier, where devices and people and organizations seamlessly transfer assets and enter into arrangements with one another. This is facilitated by Ethereum. And in 2016, Ethereum projects are starting to multiply already. So it's out there and available to be explored and used now. Provenance.org and supply chain transparency also exist now. And it is an almost empty field where anyone who dove in now could become a leader and potentially a major player in this space of guaranteeing, essentially, for instance, that money that you give to a charity actually goes to the people that it's supposed to go to. Because with blockchain technology, you can literally tag the money and watch it hop, 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 hop through the system to its ultimate destination. And with the project Enigma from MIT, we have a new technology. It's not blockchain technology, but something called homomorphic encryption, which sounds a little scary, and it is. But the way it works is it allows you to encrypt your data in such a way that you can hand it off to be analyzed by a supercomputer somewhere that can return results without ever being able to see your data. In other words, it sort of reaches into the box and moves the bits around without ever seeing them, and then hands you back the corrected result. This means that, for instance, you can wear a Fitbit tracker on your wrist and run through the park and have all your health data uploaded and analyzed and looked at without your privacy ever being breached. It's a major development, it's brand new, it's just starting out, and we have no idea where this one is going to go. But it may solve the problems of digital rights, copyright, and privacy on the internet that have been plaguing us for the past few years. So when I say humans in the digital era, yes, are we getting there? Yes, we are getting there. And these technologies are the reason. They're brand new. They're not mostly even in the news yet. Oh, and the gamification, I just threw that in because it was fun. But it could happen too. So I just wanted to introduce these very quickly today because there's a huge amount to be said about all of these technologies and where they're all going. I wanted to make you aware of them because now, this year, 2016, is the moment when you have the opportunity to discover these, explore what they can do, and perhaps begin to incorporate the capabilities of technologies of trust, which may, taken together, completely transform the way we do business, but also the way we interact with one another as people because of their enabling capabilities for trust. Basically, we have the opportunity now to trust our technological world in a way that previously we have only been able to trust our closest friends, family members, and so forth. To bring technology into the circle of trust is kind of our dream as 21st century people. And now, finally, I think we might be on the verge of being able to do that. So thank you for listening.